Some huge changes are happening right now to the US housing market. So for example, asking prices of homes for sale have been flat or down from last year for the past 4 months. There's also been a significant rise in the number of homes for sale, and this has caused price reductions to increase greatly. Now, here's the big change that we've been seeing for the past couple weeks now, because the growth rate of housing inventory has basically been stagnant. In other words, inventory last week actually increased by the smallest amount since April last year. In today's video, I'll share all the details, including other news regarding the US housing market based on my own nerdy analysis of Realtor.com's latest data. So I have a lot to share in today's video. Let's begin. But of course, before that, if you guys haven't subscribed just yet, I post frequent housing market updates so you guys can be more informed about whether to buy or sell a house right now. With that said, I appreciate you guys so much for watching today's video. Let's begin. So this is my weekly video I make for you guys regarding my own analysis of their data. And here's our latest article just posted last Thursday. And of course, I did not even read it. If you guys do read it, I'll provide a link in the video description below. So please let me know if my analysis agrees to theirs. Instead, go to realtor.com/research/data, and it takes you more or less to this information. We're going to talk about asking prices, inventory levels, new listings, days in the market, or how fast or how slow houses are selling, and also the increase in price drops on a national level. All right, let's get nerdy. This is for the week ended August 24th, the most recent trends we have from Realtor.com. So asking prices last week actually decreased by 0.2% compared to 1 year ago. On top of that, asking prices on a national level have been down year over year for the past 10 weeks. This is likely, in my opinion, from a significant increase of the amount of houses for sale or a big increase of inventory levels, as well as sluggish home sales. I expect sales to remain subdued in the near term due to seasonality effects, but also due to the fact we have low levels of housing affordability as well, due to the increase in home prices and of course still elevated rates as well. One thing to keep in mind, I noticed when I updated my numbers, because I actually made this video 2 weeks ago, last time I made this video, they actually revised their numbers through the week ended June 22nd. So if you guys look at this video and look at my previous video posted 2 weeks ago, these numbers may be a little bit different when looking at today's video. Just want to provide that clarification there. That's what I mean by R here, revise. So let's talk about inventory levels, because some very big changes here that increased by 33.6% year over year. There's now been more homes for sale this year compared to the previous year for about 42 consecutive weeks. So going back to mid-November last year, there's been more homes for sale compared to the previous 12 months. That, of course, is good news if you're a home buyer looking to buy a house, because you have more options, which of course means you have more negotiating power. Let me just give you an example. I actually wrote an offer for a client 4 days ago or so. We wrote an offer for way below asking. The asking price was $695,000. We got it under contract at $670,000. And that was after they had already reduced their asking price by $50,000 about 1 week prior to that. So buyers have more negotiating power because we have more supply hitting the market. And that, of course, is in the greater Sacramento area where I live and work as a real estate agent. But of course, every housing market's different, right? Areas like in Texas, Tennessee, Florida have a glut of housing inventory at the statewide level. And of course, areas in the Northeast and California as well, we have a lack of homes for sale compared to 2019. Going back to this analysis here, it's great to see we have 33% more homes for sale on a national level compared to 12 months ago. However, though, the year-over-year growth rate has actually been stagnant for about 4 months. The gains have been in the range of 35 to about 38% ever since mid-May. On top of that, the increase of 33.6% last week marks the smallest year-over-year gain since late April this year. My take on this, stagnant growth rate of inventory levels is this appears to be from a low amount of houses being listed for sale. In other words, the growth rate of new supply hitting the market or new listings has been at relatively low levels, rising by less than 10%, whereas before that, we saw gains over 10%. I'll talk more about that here in just a little bit. Let's talk about my own analysis of AltosResearch.com's latest data. So their data goes back to the week ended August 30th this year. So according to them, there's 704,000 existing houses for sale. 1 year ago, just under 510,000. So we have approximately 195,000 more homes for sale right now compared to 12 months ago. That represents an increase of 38%. Now, this is something kind of a similar trend we've been seeing. About 2 weeks ago, the growth rate was an increase of about 41%. Now we're at 38%. So the growth rate compared to 12 months ago has basically been paid at around 38% ever since May this year. Therefore, inventory has basically been rising at the same pace this year compared to last year because the growth rate has been in the range of 35 to about 38% for several months now. So in other words, the growth rate is relatively flat year over year. Here's something you guys should definitely be aware of as well. I talk about year-over-year changes, but also the year-to-date changes as well, the growth rate of inventory. And that's important because areas that have a glut of supply, of course, are areas in which home prices are going down or the growth rate in home prices is relatively flat. In contrast, areas like in Connecticut, for example, they say they're basically seeing like a lack of homes for sale and therefore big increases in home prices. So based on my own analysis of AltosResearch.com's data, there's approximately 205,000 more existing houses for sale right now compared to the start this year, up by about 41% year to date. Compare that to the same time frame last year, we were only up by 8%. So in other words, supply is growing much faster this year compared to 2023. It's also rising much faster compared to pre-COVID levels. So for example, housing inventory rose on average by 16% from January through July in 2017 through 2019. That's based on data from Realtor.com. Compare that to a gain of around 33% so far this year. Again, that's the same time frame, January through July. And by the way, I'll have August's numbers probably maybe about 1 or 2 days from now, once Realtor.com announces their monthly report, which covers August, which they tend to post that in the first week each and every month. So I'll keep you posted if these numbers change once they actually post August's numbers. So to repeat this, inventory, looking at pre-COVID levels, increased by 16%, but this year rising by nearly double that at around 33%. However, the increase this year is much less than the same time frame in 2022. Back then, inventory was skyrocketing. January through July, it increased by a staggering 83%. This year, relatively small gain, up by 33%. This is why I do not expect to see a sharp correction like we saw in 2022. But I do expect to see home price growth soften due to three main reasons. Number one, the decrease in asking prices for homes for sale. As I explained to you guys, asking prices down for about 10 consecutive weeks. Number two, more inventory levels, more homes for sale. And number three, seasonality, because during the last half of the year, especially in the winter months, home prices tend to go down. Let's keep an eye on this in the coming months, especially regarding the changes of inventory levels on a national level. So to summarize, inventory is up by about 38% year over year, but it's also rising much faster than pre-COVID levels. However, it's not rising nearly as fast as 2022. Also, there's approximately 26% fewer homes for sale compared to the same time frame in 2019 right now. All right, let's change gears slightly here and talk about new supply hitting the market or new listings. So last week, it increased by only 2.2% compared to 1 year ago, but new listings had decreased year over year for 2 out of the past 3 weeks. They also have lost momentum ever since the beginning of May as well. In other words, new listings have been either down or up by less than 10% for quite some time, ever since May. This appears to be why we're not seeing inventory skyrocketing, because we're seeing a lack of new supply hitting the market. If you guys want to see home prices fall greatly, watch inventory levels. Now, speaking of inventory levels, let's have a look at how fast or how slow houses are selling right now. Last week, it took 8 days longer to sell a house compared to the same time frame in 2023. Also, houses have been spending more time on the market for 16 consecutive weeks. This is much different compared to October last year through March this year, where houses were selling faster compared to the previous year. The impact regarding this is that when we have an environment in which homes are taking longer to sell, this is all contributing to the rise of inventory levels. All right, let's change gears slightly here and talk about the increase in the number of price drops, because that increased by 34.2% year over year. The number of price drops has been higher compared to the previous year for the past 31 consecutive weeks. However, even though there's more price drops compared to last year, the gain of around 34% is the smallest year-over-year increase since the week ended March 30th this year. For comparison's sake, it was much worse in late 2022, for example, through early 2023, where the increase in price reductions was increasing by more than 100%. Now, last week, it only increased by 34%. Let's also take a look at the share of price reductions as well. According to Altos, that's at 39.32% for the week ended August 30th. This is higher than last year at this time at 36%, but at 39% right now, this is actually slightly below 2022's levels at 40.07%. This is much different compared to the peak, which was back in the beginning of August, about 1 month ago. Back then, that was at least a 5-year high during the same time frame. And right now, we're higher than last year, but a little bit below 2022. Something you guys should be aware of, though, is that 39% right now, this is well above the pre-COVID levels. So for example, in mid-September 2019, the share of price drops was only at 36%. Now it's about 3 percentage points higher than that at 39% right now. One more thing I want to share regarding the share of price drops right now is how this year compares to 2022, which is the best marker regarding a market in which we had a correction because we had inventory and also price drops absolutely skyrocketing that year. So let's look at this year to start though. The trough this year regarding the share of price drops was in mid-February at 30%. Now it has increased only by about 9 percentage points to 39%. Look at 22 though. The trough was around 17% in mid-March. And by the time we hit this time 2 years ago, it increased to 40%. So the share of price drops more than doubled in 2022. Whereas this year, it barely squeaked out a gain, up by only about 9 percentage points. And that again is one of the reasons why I do not expect home prices to correct as much this year compared to 2022. Getting back to my analysis here, let's talk about a summary. In this video as well, I'll provide some information about what happened over the past week or so to provide kind of summary regarding our housing market here in I was going to say California, but in the United States. So number one, asking prices have been down year over year for the past 10 consecutive weeks. This is from a significant rise in the number of homes for sale, but of course, due to elevated rates and prices as well, making housing affordability a big challenge. Number two, housing inventory increased by 38% year over year last week, but the growth rate has been stagnant for nearly 4 months. It has been paid at around 35 to about 38%. In my opinion, this is from a slowdown in the number of new supply hitting the market. However, there's still about 26% fewer houses for sale compared to the same time frame in 2019. Of course, real estate is local though, right? Today's video is basically only talking about what's happening on a national level, but it's worth noting here that at least for the month of July, in Texas, they have 6% more existing houses for sale right now compared to July of 2019. Idaho is also up by 6%, Florida up by 5%, and Tennessee up by 2%. Also, Washington, Utah, Colorado, and Arizona are not too far off behind as well. They only have around 1 to about 5% fewer houses for sale compared to 2019. Again, I'll make a video once they release August's numbers because we likely could see Washington, Utah, Colorado, and Arizona have more homes for sale compared to 2019. I'll keep you posted regarding that. So of course, make sure you're subscribed, right? Anyways, areas that have more inventory, looking at pre-COVID levels right now, are experiencing slower price growth gains. And of course, some areas outright decreases in home prices. So it's very important to follow inventory changes in your neck of the woods, of course, on a national level as well. Number 3, approximately 78% of homeowners who do have a loan on a house are locked into an interest rate below 5%. That's based on data from Freddie Mac as of January this year. That has been limiting the amount of people listing their houses for sale and thus keeping inventory levels well below 2019. New listings have been rising by less than 10% since May, which has been limiting the growth rate of inventory. I do not expect to see a giant surge of new supply hitting the market unless people are forced to sell their houses. In other words, if unemployment spikes. And by the way, the government is going to be posting the unemployment rate on Friday. So stay tuned for that. That'll be on Friday, September 6th. So keep an eye on that once they announce that in the early morning hours on Friday morning. Number 4, the share of price drops is no longer a 5-year high during the same time frame because it dipped below 2022's levels. Also, in a span of 6 months in 2022, like I shared with you guys, the share of price drops skyrocketed from 17% to 40%, more than doubling. Compare that to the same time frame this year, it has only increased from 30% at the trough. Now it's at 39%. Number 5, last week, homes on average took about 8 days longer to sell. Also, homes have been sitting on the market longer compared to the same time frame last year for the past 16 consecutive weeks. Of course, as houses take longer to sell, this all is contributing to the rise of inventory. But wait, there's more. I want to talk about rates because I didn't really talk about that so much in today's video. The average 30-year fixed rate has been around a 1.5-year low at around 6.4% when looking at daily rates according to the Mortgage News Daily. Even with this decrease in rates though, housing affordability is still a huge challenge. And of course, because of the increase in prices as well. This can be seen by the record low level of pending home sales for the month of July before we saw the sharp decrease in rates. At least for the month of July, we have all-time record lows regarding the level of buyers getting their offers accepted. And of course, sellers getting their house under contract as well. And that data, by the way, goes back through 2001. So level of contracts being signed between buyers and sellers are lower than 2008. Pretty mind-blowing. Number 2, the most recent stats we have regarding mortgage purchase applications, that actually decreased by 9% year over year. That's based on the data from the MBA for the week ended August 23rd. Even though it's down by 9% though, that is actually an improvement from about 3 weeks ago, because about 3 weeks ago, the decrease was about 11%. Now it's down by 9%. Also, like I mentioned, NAR, or the National Association of Realtors, reported pending home sale at record low levels this July. In addition, new home construction sales, which is defined by the U.S. Census Bureau as a contract being signed between a home builder and home buyer, for the month of July actually increased by 6% year over year. So the resale market for existing houses, according to NAR, that decreased to the lowest levels on record. In contrast though, sales of brand new home construction increased by 6% year over year. Meanwhile though, there's a glut of new houses for sale though, on par with the highest levels since the year of 2008. Number 3, looking forward for the nation as a whole, asking prices are down slightly, inventory is up, and also houses are sitting on the market longer. And of course, we're seeing a rise of price reductions as well. We're moving towards a buyer's market, but it could look a lot worse. So imagine a scenario in which inventory was still skyrocketing right now, and that would cause a recipe for disaster, let's just say. Plus, every housing market's different. Inventory in California and the northeast part of the United States are down greatly from 2019 regarding homes for sale. Much different compared to the glut of inventory in Texas, Idaho, Florida, and Tennessee. Number 4, the most important one. I appreciate you guys so much for watching today's video. Please like and subscribe. Of course, share all my videos or any of my videos on your social media. I appreciate that very much. Have an amazing day, and we'll see you in the next video.